Hi there, viewer. This is Robert, and I am going to show you in this video how to use PowerShell as a data source so that you can show your end users information coming from PowerShell. So one of the challenges in being a PowerShell creator or developer is that you often want to show people the results of the activities that you're doing inside of PowerShell, or perhaps you want to use PowerShell to actually generate some data for that user in some type of report. So that can be quite challenging. You're often limited to having to create some new custom web page or generate some method of creating a report out of your PowerShell data. And what I'm going to show here is how to use all the knowledge that you have with PowerShell to very quickly and trivially turn that into something useful for different types of end users. So I'm going to make a workflow that looks much like the one that we have on the screen right now, and I'm going to start from the beginning. So let's just start a brand new workflow, and we'll create it as something called PS memory usage. And maybe to set the stage for our story here, I would like to show a user how much memory is being used by, say, the top 10 processes on a given computer. So I'll go ahead and take some crafty PowerShell that I've created that knows how to get that information, and I'll use it in a way that I can then show the user visually and quickly what the current memory usage looks like on a given machine. So we'll create this workflow, and in our workflow we'll go find our PowerShell action, and I'll just add it to my diagram. And I have done some hard work already in the background. I've used PowerShell to get the top 10 processes and sort them by memory utilization. And then I've also done some work to grab some of the specific properties of those results out. And that's important because PowerShell might take a long time to run, but there are built-in utilities that help that PowerShell run very quickly. So if I, for example, just use git process, it's going to contain a very large amount of information about those processes, but I can use some built-in tools to just slim that information down. And we can see here, just by running this command, it runs very fast, and I can see what's in process list. And what I've done is turned this information into a JSON string using the command here. So we're getting the process, sorting the results, selecting the top 10, then limiting the certain attributes that we want back from the result, and converting it to JSON. So now you might say, okay, I have this information and I'm ready to use it, and I'd like to generate a report that contains, say, the process ID, the process name, and show them the working set of memory and perhaps the thread count of the processes as well. So I'll take this script that I have in my PowerShell, copy it into the PowerShell script action that I want to run, and just to cover what's happening here, I have set this into a variable in PowerShell, and the PMG workflow lets us take advantage of variables inside of our own workflow. So I'll just take this variable that I've defined inside of my PowerShell, and I'll create a variable with the same name, and I'll set it to type string. And if we run this very quickly, I'll just hit the play button here. We'll see in our step details in our data tab that process list basically magically gets mapped as the variable that we created in our workflow to hold the values that the PowerShell script just set. So now that I have this information in a JSON document, I can use another built-in workflow action to return this as data. So we have this special workflow action called set table output, and we'll go ahead and bring this into our workflow. And I know that I would like to return certain fields that come back from that document. So I'd like the ID, the process name, the working set, and the thread count. So we'll just go into this action property, set table output. We're going to use process list as our source that we just set from the PowerShell prior. And I'll just go ahead and put a label on this. Get top 10 processes by memory. And we'll set this label return as table. And then we'll click our columns. This is where we're going to define the columns that we want to return and what we'd like to call them, where they are found in the source document. So this screen lets me basically map or create a response table from this JSON document that we've created here. So I'll just leave this on the screen for a minute just so I can see what my fields are called. And I'll say that I would like to return a column called ID, and the path is ID in the JSON document. I'll add another row. We'll say process name, and I'll just copy and paste quickly, create the same, and we'll just say memory as the path working set, because maybe that doesn't mean as much to the end user, and threads, and we'll use thread count as our source. And that's basically it. This workflow now can take this JSON document that we've created and return it as a data source. And we can just hit play here just to quickly test and see that it runs without any errors. Now that I've created this as a data source, we have a special way to sort of validate that this data source is working. Back from our main application, we have a function called providers, and I can find my workflow that I've just created, PS memory usage, and I can test it, and I'll just go ahead and submit this, and I see the table that I've just created from my workflow. So this is running in real time. This PowerShell ran, and it got these results back from my computer, and it's showing how much memory is being used by different apps. And in fact, we can see that this is the app that we're using to record this video itself, which is pretty interesting. And I can open this log ID and I can see some information about what happened when this workflow ran. We can see that the variable called process list was in fact set with a JSON document. So this gives me some diagnostics about what happened. And if I was interested, I could actually run this in a different mode, engine logged. If I wanted to do some debugging, I see that I get the same or similar results back. Perhaps my memory count has changed. And I can open this window and actually see my workflow run in classic mode, where I can do debugging and see what's happening inside the workflow. And here, very nicely, we see that the process list is set as a data source. So now I have a workflow that runs and gives me data. I would like to use it to generate a dashboard, perhaps, for an end user. So now that I'm ready to use this workflow and generate some visual information for an end user, I have a special link inside of PMG, which is my app builder. And this lets me set up pages with widgets that can do different things like draw information. Much like a cooking video, I'll go ahead and show you the end result, and then I'll show you how it's built. So this is a nice visualization of the data that we're drawing right now coming back from that workflow. So I can see what the top processes are in a nice tabular view. Perhaps I'd like to sort these in different ways, or by memory, by name, and so on. And I have a nice visual chart. So how that is built, I'll just go back into my app builder. We'll go in and say new, and we'll call this PowerShell. Well, they don't know it's PowerShell, the end user, right? So let's call this memory usage. And on this page, I need to pick a layout. So we have available different layouts that are templates that help you draw quickly the information you'd like to see. I'll just pick this one for now. And I happen to know, because I've been through some training or whatever, I have a widget called table. And I'll drag the table widget in, and I'll set its properties. This widget can be magically tied to the PowerShell workflow that I've just created. It also very nicely shows me some example data that will come back from this workflow. And we'll just go ahead and hit save and view and see what this looks like. So this is great. We're already getting some visual information back from the PowerShell, and it looks like it could be very useful for me as an end user. I see how much memory is being used on the box by what particular processes, and let's just say that you'd like to go ahead and give them a little bit more information here. So now we've drawn a table of detailed information, but perhaps we'd like to add a chart. And in the background, which is covered in another video, we've set this workflow up as a data source for reporting. And because we've done that, it's available to other widgets that I have, like charting. And we can give this chart a label and give it a description, and we can pick our memory usage as the view that I've set up in the background. And I can set it up as a pie chart, and I can say that I would like to chart by process name and show or hide a legend. Let's just go ahead and save and view and see what we get. So this is great. I have a quick visual telling me where my memory is being consumed, rolled up by process. I have a detailed table as a report, and I can go ahead and add one more thing, which is a page label to this. So we'll go ahead and finish this dashboard page out by adding a title to our page. We'll just set a heading, change this to memory usage, and save and view. So this is obviously not finished, right? There would be a lot of things that you might want to do from here. Perhaps you want to create a drop-down list showing different computers the user can choose from. But this is all it takes to start building dashboards using PowerShell as a data source with the PMG platform.